The December chill crept through the streets of their small Colorado town, wrapping the old craftsman-style houses in a soft blanket of snow. The kind of quiet that settled before a storm, one that promised more than just the weather would change. Evelyn stood on the cracked porch of her childhood home, her breath forming small clouds in the crisp air. In one hand, her battered suitcase, in the other, a carefully wrapped gift bag. Her heart thudded unevenly. This was supposed to be a happy time, a time for family. But something in the silence inside told her it wouldn't be. Pushing open the front door, she stepped inside. The usual smells of cinnamon and pine were missing, replaced by a cold stillness. The Christmas tree stood decorated, but its lights flickered weakly, as if uncertain. From the kitchen came the voice she both craved and feared, Sierra's laugh, clear and bright. "Mark says the resort has a personal butler. Clothes pressed daily," Sierra said, her tone light but tinged with superiority. Evelyn froze in the hallway. She'd worked 2 jobs all semester to save the $3,000 her sister had demanded for the trip. Early mornings at the campus cafe, late nights shelving books in the library. Every penny was gone. Yet here she was, standing outside the warmth of her own family. Her mother, Carol, appeared then, face unreadable. "Evelyn, you're early," she said, stepping aside without a hug. Behind her, 4 matching suitcases sat lined up like silent soldiers. That's when Dad stepped out from the living room, clearing his throat. "Pumpkin, can we talk before dinner?" Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, the holiday centerpiece glowing softly between them. The little LED candles flickered like they were trying to apologize, but the silence was heavier than any words. Sierra perched on the counter, twirling a strand of her perfectly styled hair. "So, there's been a change of plans," she began, voice smooth but with an edge Evelyn couldn't miss. "The cafe's not doing as well as we hoped. The numbers just aren't there." Evelyn's fingers clenched the edge of the table. "What does that mean?" Mum folded her arms, eyes fixed somewhere behind Evelyn. "It means, well, after a family meeting, we decided it's best you sit this one out." Evelyn's throat tightened. "Sit out?" "But I paid my share." Mark, Sierra's fiancé, glanced at his phone, then smirked. "The money's already gone toward the bookings, and, well, you're not going." It wasn't the first time Evelyn had felt invisible, but the sting was sharper this time. When Sierra won the regional debate championship, Mum baked 3-layer cakes and made T-shirts. When Evelyn got the lead in a middle school play, Mum clapped politely, then left early to answer a call from Sierra. Years of waiting, hoping. But her family always had more urgent things for Sierra. Dad finally spoke, clearing his throat. "Evelyn, we know this hurts. But you have college. Your schedule's packed. This is practical." Practical. Evelyn tasted the bitterness of that word. "I worked 2 jobs for this trip. I sent the money on time." Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. Carol sighed, her face softening just a fraction. "Honey, it's not about you. It's about the family." "Family," Evelyn repeated, voice low, "means more than picking favourites." Sierra's eyes narrowed, but she forced a smile. "We just want what's best for everyone." Evelyn swallowed the lump in her throat and stood abruptly. "Maybe what's best for you isn't what's best for me." She turned, the scrape of her chair loud in the sudden silence, and walked away. Later, alone in Grandpa's study, Evelyn opened a dusty drawer. Inside was an old photograph, her and Grandpa Walter fishing on a lake, lines tangled, laughter frozen in time. On the back, in his handwriting, "To Evelyn, the quiet ones always come back stronger." Tears pricked her eyes. For the first time, she felt seen. A few days later, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was warm and familiar, carrying a gentle weight of years. A few days later, just as Evelyn was trying to focus on her studies, her phone buzzed insistently across the worn wooden table. The screen displayed an unknown number, one she didn't recognize. Hesitant, she answered. Hello? She said, her voice uncertain. Evelyn, this is George. George Harper. I was a close friend of your Grandpa Walter, came the voice, aged, soft, yet steady. There was a kindness in it, like the calm after a storm. I've been wanting to reach out for a while now. He spoke of you often. I think it's time you learned some things he left for you, things your family might not have told you. Evelyn's heart fluttered, a swirl of nervous anticipation and quiet hope rushing through her. She hadn't expected this, but the sincerity in George's voice drew her in. I'd like to invite you over, he said gently. There are things I think you deserve to know, things that might help you understand. 2 days later, Evelyn found herself standing in front of an old, ivy-draped house, nestled beneath towering oak trees on the outskirts of town. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, a comforting contrast to the sterile coldness she'd been feeling at home. George opened the door before she could knock, smiling warmly with eyes that held decades of stories. Inside, the house was steeped in history, walls lined with faded photographs, shelves bowed with thick leather-bound books, and the faint scent of aged wood mingling with the faintest hint of tobacco. George led her to a cosy living room, where a crackling fire threw dancing shadows against the walls. He reached behind a shelf and pulled out a small, delicately carved wooden box. This belonged to your grandfather, he said softly, handing it to Evelyn with reverence. He asked me to give this to you when the time was right. Inside is his journal. He wanted you to have it. His words, his thoughts, his heart. With trembling hands, Evelyn opened the box. The leather cover of the journal was worn and cracked, the pages yellowed but carefully preserved. She ran her fingers over the inked script, then began to read. Page after page, she discovered a side of Grandpa Walter she'd never known, a man of quiet strength and deep love, wrestling with impossible choices. The greatest secret hidden within the journal wasn't about money or property. It was a story of sacrifice and devotion. Grandpa Walter had been torn between 2 daughters, his eldest, Evelyn's mother, and Evelyn herself, the quiet child who often faded into the background. He had loved them both fiercely but knew he couldn't give them both everything. The journal revealed how he had chosen to put his faith in Evelyn, not because she was favoured, but because he believed in her strength to carve her own path. George watched Evelyn closely as she read, his voice gentle when he spoke again. He wanted you to understand something very important, George said, that sometimes value isn't measured in things you can hold or see. It's in the people who trust you, who believe in you when no one else does. You were the person he trusted the most. Evelyn's eyes lifted to meet George's, and in them she saw something she hadn't felt in a long time, a beacon of belief, a silent affirmation of her worth. At that moment, the meaning of family shifted. It wasn't the people who shared her blood or a house. It was the ones who stood by her, who believed in her quietly but fiercely. Those who protected her heart when the world turned its back. And for the first time in years, Evelyn felt seen. That night, Evelyn sank into Grandpa Walter's old armchair, the worn leather creaking softly beneath her weight. The journal lay open on her lap, its pages still whispering the truths she'd just uncovered. The house around her seemed different somehow, warmer, almost alive, as if the very walls held the strength and quiet resilience of the man who had loved her unconditionally. Outside, a gentle snow fell, dusting the porch swing that Grandpa had lovingly crafted, the soft creak of its chains mingling with the wind. Inside, the soft glow of a single lamp cast long shadows, wrapping Evelyn in a cocoon of solitude and resolve. Her phone buzzed relentlessly on the side table. One message after another poured in. Texts from Mom, Dad, Sierra, even Mark. Some were desperate pleas, others cold accusations, and a few demanding explanations she had no intention of giving. Evelyn let the phone vibrate, untouched. She was tired of explaining, tired of being unheard. After a moment, she picked up the phone, scrolling to the locksmith's number she'd saved earlier that day. With steady hands, she made the call. The next morning, the old locks on the front door clicked and clunked as the locksmith replaced them. Evelyn watched silently, a strange mixture of sadness and relief washing over her. For the first time in years, the house felt like hers, no longer just a memory, no longer a space where she was the afterthought. That evening, the silence shattered. Her phone erupted with angry texts and incessant calls. The screen flashed with numbers she recognized but didn't want to answer. Finally, she swallowed and picked up a call from Mom. "Evelyn, what have you done? You can't just lock us out." Her mother's voice trembled, a mixture of disbelief and frustration. Evelyn's voice was calm, unwavering, with a quiet strength that surprised even her. "I've taken back what's mine. The money I worked for, the home Grandpa left me, the respect I deserve. I'm done being invisible in my own family." Mom's voice cracked, the raw pain slipping through the anger. "Family means sacrifice, Evelyn. You don't understand." "No," Evelyn said softly but firmly. "Family means respect. It means being seen, being heard, and for the first time, I'm respecting myself." A heavy silence stretched between them, weighted with years of unspoken words and buried feelings. "Maybe Grandpa saw something in me you never did," Evelyn added, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it's time you all saw it too." She hung up and looked around the room. The jazz records stacked neatly by the old stereo, the cracked leather-bound books filled with notes in the margins, the porch swing gently swaying in the breeze outside. These weren't just possessions. They were pieces of a home, her sanctuary. That night, Evelyn lay in the old bedroom she once shared with Sierra, now hers alone. The quiet wrapped around her like a soft blanket. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen. Not by everyone, not even by her family, but by the one person who mattered most. Herself. And that was enough. Weeks turned into months. The house in Evergreen, once a silent witness to years of neglect and forgotten dreams, had transformed. It was no longer just a relic of the past. It had become Evelyn's sanctuary, a foundation upon which she was building a new life. Determined to honor her grandfather's legacy in her own way, Evelyn hired a property manager, a kind retired teacher named Margaret, and her husband Tom. They moved in with their golden retriever, Daisy, filling the house with quiet life and gentle footsteps. Margaret tended the small herb garden on the porch with care, coaxing life from the soil, just as Evelyn was coaxing strength from within herself. The monthly rent payments covered the property taxes, insurance, and surprisingly, left Evelyn with a modest surplus. For the first time, she was able to save, not just pennies here and there, but real savings, a nest egg that whispered promises of stability and independence. It was something Grandpa Walter had hoped she'd learn all along, and now she was. Her phone stayed mostly silent from the family she had once called home, except for one message that arrived months later from Sierra. "Family isn't just blood. It's about understanding. I hope you find peace." Evelyn read the message twice but never replied. She didn't need their approval anymore. Her peace wasn't tied to their words or actions. It was something she had cultivated on her own, quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. Some nights, when the city finally slowed down and the noise faded, Evelyn would crack open her window just enough to hear the whisper of the wind through the trees. She'd sit quietly, eyes closed, imagining the gentle creak of the porch swing as it rocked in the evening breeze. She could almost hear the soft crackle of Grandpa's jazz records as they warmed the room before the first note played. Above her desk hung the framed photograph of her and Grandpa Walter on that fishing trip years ago. Tangled fishing lines, laughter frozen in time. Beneath the photo, in Evelyn's own handwriting, were words she had inscribed one quiet afternoon. Still here. Still quiet. Still mine. She never sought revenge. Instead, she reclaimed her voice, her space, her worth. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn truly felt free. Evelyn's journey wasn't about winning a battle or proving anyone wrong. It was about finding herself amid the noise of expectations and the shadows of neglect. It was about learning that the most important family is the one you build inside your own heart. She learned that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the loudest voice you have, the voice that refuses to be erased, that quietly insists on being heard. Her story is a reminder to anyone who has ever felt unseen, unheard, or unvalued. Your worth does not depend on others' recognition. It begins with you. It grows in the moments you choose to stand firm, to speak your truth, and to protect your peace. Family can be complicated, it can hurt. But family can also be redefined by the love you give yourself, the boundaries you set, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the road is lonely. Evelyn's new beginning is a beacon for anyone searching for their own place in the world, a place where they are not just tolerated, but truly belong. In her grandfather's words, whispered softly through the pages of a worn journal, the quiet ones always come back stronger. And Evelyn, strong, steady, and finally free, is proof of that truth.